Hi everyone, welcome back to the sixth and final part of our Sultai Ramp standard event. It's been a blast and hopefully we can hit the 5-win mark again. Definitely playing first. And this looks like a great starter, so we will keep. Yeah, Uro into Nissa, into Hydrate Crisis is definitely gas. And we even have the Fabled Passage to help us find a black source if we need it. Don't need a second Nissa though. Alright, let's see what we're up against. Alright, we'll have to wait a turn or two to find out what we're up against. Here I think I am actually going to just fetch a black source. As I'll definitely need a couple of them to hit that Casualties of War on time. Alright, let's see what color our opponent decides to fetch. I'm going to guess Forest. Mountain, okay. So we are up against another Rakdos Sacrifice deck, the story of this event. Let's go ahead and continue with our plan of Uro. And we'll play that out tap. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, I want to be very careful of Claim the Firstborn, especially with Priest of Forgotten Gods out there. Alright, not sure why my speech bubble was going nuts, but we've gotten rid of it now. Okay. So here, unfortunately, I can't both Tyrant Scorn and Thought Erasure. And I have a really bad feeling that my Nissa land is going to be claimed. So how do we best play around that? I think we want to see what they're up to over there, play out a tapped land, and then next turn, potentially Nissa or Casualties. This feels like a fairly safe line to take. Alright, and Midnight Reaper and a couple Mayhem Devils. I definitely want to pinch them on cards, so I'm going to take the Midnight Reaper. And as good as Atris is, I'm not sure if I want to keep it on top. I really want to just hit a 6th land. Yeah, I'm going to bin Atris here. One thing that I have done as I've been playing this deck a little bit on the Mythic ladder is I did swap out all 4 Thought Erasures for 4 Agonizing Remorse. In my experience in the current meta with so many graveyard-based decks, exiling the card is just so valuable. Not to mention the color requirement really does make a difference. Okay, so we did hit our 6th land, and we can now Casualties of War to take them off of red. They also attacked with the Priest of Forgotten Gods, which is nice because now they will not have the option of sacrificing a creature in response to this. So I think we need to take out the Mayhem Devil and the Mountain. That does allow them potentially to start drawing cards with the Castle Locthwain, but taking them off of red mana to really slow them down seems important. And leaving 2 Mayhem Devils out there sounds like a recipe for disaster if they do manage to find some things they can sacrifice repeatedly. Alright, and we don't currently have to worry about claim at least. They would need to have a red source and claim. Let's go ahead and animate some lands.
Together we will prevail.
And this does give me the ability to Tyrant Scorn in response to a claim as well, which is very nice. I wonder if it makes sense just to take out something right now. I don't think it's necessary though. Alright, there is the red source. Okay, a Midnight Reaper. think we're going to want to take that out, and if they choose to sacrifice both, that will leave them pretty empty. So do I want to do this in response? I don't think so. Let's get our blessings first. Oh, now they can Priest of the Forgotten Gods, though. I should have Tyrant scorned the Priest in response to Kroxa. Yeah, this is a tricky deck to play against. Alright, come on, Arena. Let me Tyrant scorn the Mayhem Devil here at least. Alright, and the good news is we are going to be able to play a very large Hydroid Krasis.
Peace. Do not assume I am fragile.
And their life total is under a bit of pressure as well. And let's discard the Temple of Mystery here. Alright. So we can bring Uro back. Or we could play our Hydroid Krasis. I think I want to bring Uro back and then play Atris. Let's get rid of the lands and some of our spells that we're not going to be getting back. Still really need to be careful about Claim. Fortunately, we have a lot of good 3 mana or less creatures. Go ahead and Atris. And I'll be animating the Temple of Mystery. I don't want to get rid of all of our black sources. So Casualties of War would be the best possible draw. Definitely taking that over whatever the other 2 cards are. And as long as Nissa survives, we will be able to cast this next turn, even if we don't hit another black source, because we can tap for black and then animate that land. It's definitely a close and interesting game we have. So expect the Mayhem Devil to come out and give them maximum damage off of bringing the cat back. Good news is they are very much pinched on red mana since we took out their first mountain. So if they're playing out Mayhem Devil, it's highly unlikely they have another red source and a Claim. It's like Atris is not long for this world. And as good as what they're doing is, as long as we are able to Casualties next turn, it feels like we're going to be able to stabilize. But yeah, unfortunately they can stack these triggers in such a way that they are going to clear our board. go ahead and resolve here. All right. So let's really hamper their progress here.
Be wary of the ground you walk on.
And it feels good to just try to keep them as pinched on red mana as possible. Do we want to hit another land? Actually, I like this because it will help fill our graveyard up as well. And we are a little bit short on lands now, so I'm going to keep that on top. We can sacrifice that for a forest and then have a really large Hydroid Krasis potentially. Are going to be able to get a red source here. Okay. So they really should not have attacked with the Priest of Forgotten Gods, so they could have sacrificed Kroxa and the O1. So they kind of returned the favor on the punt that we made earlier related to Priest of Forgotten Gods. We'll toss our second Nissa. Okay, and they don't have a Mayhem Devil out, so we're not going to take damage by sacking this. So is it better to Uro or Hydroid Krasis is the question. It seems to me that Uro is a little bit better, as it opens the possibility for us to do more. So let's start off with this. For example, if we can find another Casualties of War, that would be amazing. Get rid of one of them in our graveyard. Tamiyo can also start getting some things back for us potentially. And stop the discard from Kroxa. Wow. And lucky for us, we did actually find that extra Casualties of War. Now they are going to be able to buy back the Woe Strider next turn. I wonder if it makes more sense to just take out the Priest of Forgotten Gods. That actually feels safer. This is really close. They're just going to sacrifice this to Scry. And that would take their whole turn to buy this back, but then they could use Priest. I'm going to get rid of the Priest here and keep them, again, off of red mana. And I guess we could have tried to bank on them not drawing a land if we had gone after the Woe Strider, but they could have scryed into it by sacking the 0-1 there. Okay, and let's animate this temple, trying to keep as many sources that are forest for Hydroid Krasis to be really large. And I don't know, I think it might make sense to attack here. We don't actually have any more Casualties of War, so that's not really a consideration. And if they spend their whole turn to get back a Woe Strider, it's not the end of the world for us. And if they just draw a card, that feels like we have put them in a pretty rough spot. They did find another red source. At this point, it feels like it's time to play out a large Hydroid Crisis. How do we want to do our attacks? I think I want to do it this way, where we're going to animate a forest, but we're not going to attack with it. We're going to only attack with our non-forests. And we'll just play a pretty large Hydroid Crisis here.
The land shall conquer you.
And this is going to not necessarily put us dead if they claim it, because we're going to gain life off of this and Coxa. Oh, and alright. So they are acknowledging that we did find a way to turn the corner there. Let's bring in the Rituals of Soot, as well as the last Casualties of War. And I think we can trim at least 2 Atrices. Tamio is an all-star. It turns off their discard effects, and it buys us back really important spells. I don't like Thought Erasure against aggressive decks in general, and definitely not against decks that want a lot of things in their graveyard. Bring in 2 Aether Gusts, and 1 Massacre Girl. This feels like the optimal setup, so let's run it. Okay, unfortunately we are a little bit light on lands here, so we'll throw this one back. And this is much, much better. Now, this is a tough decision. I think I have to put back the Casualties. As good as that card is, we're not really that close to casting it yet, and everything else in our hand is so good. We don't want to sabotage ourselves by pitching a land, for example, and then just not hitting our 3rd land. Okay, our opponent was on a Mold of 5 there. And definitely want to be able to keep that Tyrant Scorn. Another thing I would not be able to do if I had put a land back. I expect our Uro is about to disappear. Definitely shocking here. We have the option of spiraling or Tyrant Scorning or Aether Gusting. Almost certainly we're going to Growth Spiral here. Yeah. This way we'll have 4 lands next turn, and we can Tyrant Scorn on a future turn. And I'm happy to wait on cracking the Fabled Passage, see what land we draw if we draw one, and give us a slightly higher chance to draw land. Alright. So now we'll cash these in and play out Atris. Let's grab both a forest and an island. It's odd to me that they're showing us these two, which are both good. I'm going to take this one because when Uro goes to the yard, that's actually good for us. So let's see what we've got up here. Just a land. But again, that helps us fill our yard for Uro on a future turn. It's interesting they didn't even consider getting rid of the Uro from our yard there. I think that was something worth thinking about at least. Normally you do want to nab a card from your opponent's hand, but if this comes back, that seems like a really hard thing for them to overcome. And they're nowhere near bringing the Woe Strider back. They're kind of close, but I'll gladly trade. Yeah. my Atris for that. If we can keep their board clear for a little while as we continue to ramp and get closer to our more powerful spells, that feels like a good strategy. Plus, they actually allowed us to bring Uro back by offering that trade up. And I'm actually going to double shock here, because keeping Aether Gust up protects us from most of what they can do. So, alright, and our opponent helped us out a little bit with their play in that last game, but overall, this deck was a lot of fun to play. I hope that you were able to learn something watching these videos. I definitely learned some things playing these matches against Rakdos Sacrifice, and I will see you for next week's standard deck. Take care.